Welcome back to the Wanna Parlay podcast. I'm Lance Bell. Next to me is Jack Neuheisel. Jack, go ahead and tell the folks about the people who sponsor this podcast.
This show, Lance, is brought to you by the good people of Wanna Parlay, home of the $2 parlay and the world's richest parlay, where every day people are turning $2 into $2,000 and walking out the door. We are just one day into our Wanna week, and we already have several people off to a hot start making good money. It's fun doing the Tuesday shows, Lance, because we're just one day in and people are already lining their pockets. It's a special thing to see. As always, we start with the pick'ems on the special shout-outs. Pick 4, Ehend 8431. I'm sure there's some significance and some meaning behind whatever the hell that is. Gets back on the leaderboard. Third all-time win for Ehend and biggest win to date for the kid. He's just kind of been milling around in the free-to-play. Now he's finally offering some cash over, and he's up $200. Good to be good. The Parlay Royale, I mean, it's honestly, I'm such a fan of the guy. But for the rest of our audience, we might have to stop talking about his wins because it's discouraging. Dial picks, another $1,000. Honestly, dude, save some for the rest of us. You're such a good man, though, Cade. God, just keep doing it. Have a year. Go off. Just remember me. Remember how nice we were to you. The main event is just one day in the making, but Cicero Rocky 3x9 dialed up a 6-leg 47.91 to set the early standard for the week. Respectable, beautiful. Lance, it ain't going to be enough. 6 more nights to catch that number and win yourself 2K, people. Tail dial picks. One Mad Raider, our guy David Smerling. Chicago KG's hot. We were hoping to get him for an interview today. He has declined and has pushed till Thursday. I get it. Whatever it takes. It's $2 to win, 2K. Everyone grow up. Go get some picks out there. Got some big games coming up this weekend we're excited to talk about. And then before we hit the podcast, as always, KG, we're excited to get you on Thursday. Special message from him. Less than a month away from the drop takeover at Little Joe's in Chicago, an event that Wanna Parlay will be in the house for and sponsoring. It's back and bigger than ever. Arthur and Bob are behind the board, pouring drinks and swapping stories. KG in the kitchen whipping up his famous jambalaya beef sandwiches and those insane Taylor Street sliders. It's a hell of a plate you're putting together there, KG. El Bandito Tequila will also be a co-sponsor for this event and in the building. So, Jim Bob and that crew will be around and having fun. This is February 10th, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. If you're in Chicago area, get your ass over there. Download Wanna Parlay, win some money, drink some tequila, have a slider, 9 of them. And there we go, Lance. Podcast time, baby.
Let's go. So I guess we should start out accountability hour. Talk a little bit about last night.
Well, you'd love that, wouldn't you? You want to know? You're feeling pretty good. Rams
sure
house.
would. Rams house, baby. That was awesome for the Rams. Honestly, felt bad a little for Sam Darnold. I mean, you wanted the guy to play better after this 14-win season. It looks like he missed out on a lot of money with how bad his last 2 weeks were. But, I don't know. They came out that opening drive. They received Stafford slinging the thing. Offense looked in tune. The first drive script was beautiful. McVay did exactly what I thought he was going to do. And quick 7-0. And then, honestly, it never felt like the Vikings had a chance. Darnold was seeing ghosts, holding the football for God knows how long. I don't know. He's probably still holding the football as we speak. But it was tough. You feel bad, but Rams are moving on.
Yeah, 9 sacks for our guy Sam Darnold last night. Part of that's on him. You got to get the ball out. Sometimes there's nowhere to go with it. You got to trust your legs a little bit. Thank God he did hit his rushing over of 13.5. One of the few bets I won in my 2 and 3 slate last night. I suck. Honestly, it was not on my bingo card. I did not see that first half happening and then the accompanying game. So a couple bets I got excited about. First half for the Vikings obviously sucks. First half under, I tried to talk people into. That bet sucks. Rams got out hot, and we talked about it. There was a very specific recipe for the Vikings to go in and be competitive in that game, and it was you had to start up. You had to be able to control the line of scrimmage and run the ball, and you couldn't make Sam Darnold the guy that was going to win you the game. And literally after the 7-0 start, I'm going, well, shit, that's completely gone astray. We had one chance to kind of get ourselves back in that game on the fumble that wasn't a fumble. Awkward as hell, but good for Matthew Stafford. Pretty impressive because that's a hell of a play. That's something Patrick Mahomes, some of these guys that just grew up playing shortstop and point guard and all that shit, you just make plays like that. You're just fucking hyper aware. People are getting butthurt about that. Just no respect for the game. So yeah, anyway, I go 2-3. Lost the first half. Vikings get smoked. Did hit the under 47.5. The game got real sleepy in the second half. I was the only guy happy to see that. Aaron Jones over on carries. I had 13.5 was the number. He got 13 on the nose, and they really stopped giving him the ball in the second half because it was fucking over. I hate that. Aaron Jones over in yards also comes in 10 yards short at 48. Sucks. Sam Darnold gets me back to kind of right, so I'm not just taking a total bath last night. I did chase a Vikings live line. That was a terrible mistake. So I'm down. Chance to get back.
Hey, I mean, shit happens. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they were a 14-win football game or a football team. They had 14 wins. Like it wasn't like this was lopsided coming into it, but oh my God, the Rams D line was just harassing Darnold. Yeah, was he holding the ball too long? Yeah, but I mean, the guys couldn't get open because Jared Verse and some of these cats just flying at Darnold.
And it was one of that blood in the water when one thing goes wrong, it all goes wrong kind of situation. Yeah. Like Justin Jefferson trips over his own feet on a big 4th down play.
That was
brutal. We can't
hit
the quick out because we got no one to fucking throw the ball to. It's just like it just felt like that was the whole game. And I will say I totally saw the Rams possibly winning this game. I did not see the blowout coming, and it's kind of disrupted my confidence. That was the one game that really went like totally outside of like the range of what I thought it could possibly go. I thought that was going to be the game of the week. For that to go be the blowout game and the shitty one to watch, because that at least the Bills-Broncos game was interesting until like early 4th quarter. And then you're like, okay, you're doing math in your head. You're like, yeah, this is over. That one felt over midway through the second, where it was like, not like even like it's mathematically possible, but this is just like one team's rolling, one team's absolutely deflated. So for that reason, it's bummer. The takeaway, though, one, Sean McVay is still that guy. Unbelievably executed game plan. We laid out to a T what the Vikings were going to have to do to win, and they confronted that with everything they did with their scheme, offensively, defensively. Puka Nacua was a baller, but really it was run game and spreading it around, hitting some tight end stuff. Cooper Kupp did not hit his overs, by the way. Just one catch was under 50 yards. So and basically we had talked about it while we were entering the holiday season, but undefeated during the month of December. And I stand by our comments on yesterday's pod where the winner of that game is going to be my pick to win the NFC. I'm rolling Rams through the Eagles. You're giving me that defense, which is going to do a great job against Saquon, at least whatever that looks like. If that's holding Saquon to 90 yards, that's just what it is versus a guy that good right now. But they're going to make Jalen Hurts be the guy to beat him, and I have not seen it from Jalen Hurts maybe once but twice this year. But generally speaking, especially this last month since the concussion, it's not been there in the Eagles passing game. Their defense is that good, but Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford versus Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, it's easy. Rams all day. And then I get Rams, Lions, Matthew Stafford return game in Detroit. Give me the Rams all the way.
Hey, I love the words coming out of your mouth right now. I can't lie. That was just beautiful. Yeah, I mean the Rams with this next Eagles matchup, and we'll talk a lot more NFL on Thursday's show, but I can't help myself. The Rams are just the Rams. They've played the Eagles earlier this year, and Saquon ran all over them. Just it looked like JV versus varsity in that game because, as a Rams fan, I was sadly... Oh, there's KG Little Joe's real quick. What's up, gents? Sorry can't pop on today, but the one lock of the week is me jumping on Thursday. I'll be jumping in and out of today's chat, though. Awesome. KG, you're the man. As long as we can get you once. If we get you once, that's a successful... Fuck, I call it a successful month, not even a week.
100%. Yeah. KG lit up the NFL this weekend, too. Almost won the main event. So it's good that we're going to have him Thursday for the more NFL-focused programming.
Yeah, because today, now that I wrap up, but hopefully the Rams can have revenge factor in that Eagles game. And kind of McVay was like, okay, that's how they beat the shit out of us. This is what we can do to contain that next time. We hope, we'll see. But we'll talk more Thursday about that. Now, I want to start moving in to college football because this Ohio State Notre Dame matchup has got me, my friends, family. But there's a lot of us just going at each other because
intrigue, polarization.
But all right. So I'm gonna come out and say it, Jack. I like Ohio State minus 8.5.
And I like you a lot, but unfortunately you're wrong here. And I'm just combing through your notes. I'll let you start, and I'll just kind of offer my rebuttals. I'll pepper them in as you go. But tell me why Ohio State, other than you and the rest of the country, thinks they're going to steamroll here.
See, and that's the problem is because the first thing I've been asking people today, because, you got to outsource. You got to talk to other people to just see what the energy is like. There was people I'm hearing they like Notre Dame. I've heard more Notre Dame. They're telling me 8.5 is a lot of points. Yada yada, and I just don't see it. Jack, I was telling someone if there was a fortune teller that knew the future, he genuinely knew the future and told me Notre Dame was going to cover or even win the national championship, I'd still go Ohio State. I can't do it. There's nothing that Notre Dame has done in this season that leads me to believe they can hang with Ohio State.
Where have we been the last 3 weeks?
No, 100%. So let me just get started. Okay. So first thing I looked at was, okay, would this be the national championship if we flipped the two teams' position in the bracket?
So you're saying if Notre Dame had Ohio State's path and vice versa?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're giving me then Notre Dame playing Tennessee at Notre Dame game one.
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
So okay. And I think there's an argument there, but okay, you give them that one. Next, Rose Bowl, Oregon.
Would have been a great game. Matchup wise, I would have picked Oregon. But the problem was Oregon decided to play their worst game of the year that day. Ohio State was hot. Fair. Oregon shit their pants. Like, it had no answers on defense. Safeties were getting their legs crisscrossed and falling down in the secondary. Dylan Gabriel did nothing with his legs, couldn't extend plays. It was just an ass kicking.
And that's fair. So it's really hard to gauge that one because of how poorly, it just seemed so mismatched. But obviously we saw earlier in the season, Oregon beat Ohio State. Now that was at Autzen and they win by 1 on clock management stuff. And I don't know if you've been a quarterback. I haven't been a quarterback in Autzen as the away team, but I can't imagine that's an easy task to time manage.
So here's an interesting question. Notre Dame stands toe-to-toe with Georgia, beats them. Now, it was a Gunnar Stockton Georgia team. It wasn't Carson Beck. Mm-hmm. Not to say that Carson Beck's a world beater. He's transferring to Miami. As an SMU fan, I'm not scared at all. Yeah. Obviously, Ohio State just beats Texas in a game that goes down to the last 4 minutes of the game. Ends up being a 14-point deal, which might be your best argument on the board for why they're going to cover this 8.5. Is we could still get a great fourth quarter game that ends up in an Ohio State cover on the current 8-point line. But obviously, Texas is 0-2 against that Georgia team. So, if we wanted to start playing transitive property here, Notre Dame beating that Georgia team tells me they're better than that Texas team. And Texas was on the 1 yard line with a chance to make it a real interesting game. And obviously, we can go through the ins and outs of that game. There's no question through the playoffs, Ohio State has been the most impressive team. And that's how they find themselves here with an 8-point spread. Now, the sense I've been getting, at least in the media, and I think everyone's just doing a little protecting themselves here before you just go get exposed. One, you got to do a little bit of sell the fight. You're doing some prize fighting. So you talk about here's why Notre Dame could exist in the game. And then ultimately everyone's like, but it's Ohio State because you're trying to cover yourself. Because I think that's in the realm of possibilities. What you're talking about is an Ohio State steamroll. And then I think there's the camp with me that is desperate for a great last game of this college football season. And the idea that this game is going to finish outside of an 8-point margin is unthinkable. It fucking sucks. So I will say I did do that classic thing of starting with an answer and then go finding the math to support it. But I do reserve the right to flip-flop. But for today's
100%.
For today's spot, one thing I'm not going to flip-flop on at all is the under, and we can get there. But just as you continue to go Ohio State, I just wanted to say, yes, the original motivation was I do want one of these quarterbacks to have the ball down three or four, like something where give me a game-winning drive opportunity. That's all I want to see. And I'll get into what we haven't seen from the quarterbacks yet and all that. Keep going on Ohio State.
Yeah. And I will, because Jack, I don't know. I was telling your brother earlier, that was one of the guys I talked to. And I said, I don't think there's anything anyone can tell me to flip. I can't flip. I think it's Ohio State all the way, but I'll keep going. So, one of Notre Dame's biggest, what would you call it? Biggest factors or biggest positive. Strategy. Man coverage on defense this year. Sure. They showed the percentages.
They got all the credit for against Penn State. Obviously, Drew Aller not completing a single pass to receiver, and they mostly lived in man the whole time.
Yeah, and we can go down the list on Drew Aller and Penn State and how they've had the same quarterback for 15 years. But that's an argument for a little later, maybe after the season. Let's keep going with Notre Dame. So man coverage, you will not survive at all against Ohio State in man coverage. There's not a defense in this country that can do that. That's a given. You've seen Jeremiah Smith, you've seen Mbuka, and you've even seen this rise of Carnell Tate, as well as the mismatch in the backfield as Quinshawn Jenkins and what's his name? Henderson. Can't remember his first name.
Travion.
Yeah, Travion. What a name. So
it was going to be my middle name. My parents backed out on the last second, but originally it was going to be John Travion Neuheisel.
You missed out on a great one. So man coverage, you're just not going to be able to do that at all against Ohio State. And we'll talk about it. But let's just go down their list. Let's go down their path to the national championship. Indiana. We know what that game was. It was a mismatch. Indiana had, and in this game, before this game, they kept talking about Indiana, their defensive rating. I don't remember the specific stats, but those were high. They had very high defensive ratings and all those things in stats in college football. But obviously, eye test, you see the line of scrimmage, it was a mismatch. Notre Dame and that Rourke kid, quarterback, man coverage. Yep. I mean, the kid played on a torn ACL and he was out at South Bend Friday night, 7 p.m. There's all the
unimpressed. Unimpressed. Shut that kid down. Nothing crazy about that kid. Not a draft prospect. No. I'm with you.
There we go. Okay, so that's game one, and they win. And good, at home they took care of business. Good for them.
I'll even keep fueling your argument here. That the also offense was getting nothing accomplished that game.
No,
it doesn't get jump started until Jeremiah Love goes 98 and out the gate, and all of a sudden it completely changed the landscape of that game. Rourke's starting to have to throw. You get the interception. Stuff starts happening. So anyway, proceed.
All right. So that was the Indiana game. Now we go to Georgia. So Georgia's interesting because they're fucking Georgia. You got to give them credit where credit's due. I mean, they've been great the past few years. They played their backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. And, I know the whole argument with Carson Beck. I don't think Carson Beck's would have made that much more of a difference than this backup quarterback. I don't think, but really the problem is this Georgia team wasn't the great team of years past. They weren't. They had they had drop problems earlier going on throughout the season. Receivers weren't great, and they just weren't that good of a football team. Obviously better than most, but I'm saying to Georgia's standard in the past 4 or 5 years, they weren't at that standard. So they go in there and they get a win. That's 2. And I will say I was impressed with Notre Dame beating Georgia. I probably, most times I would never bet on Notre Dame. I think I was on them in that game, but most times.
I'm with you. You're playing a backup quarterback. If you wanted to throw the stone and put an asterisk next to that game in this argument, I'm willing to entertain it.
Yeah, and even then, it's like I don't want to dog too much because he did go in and beat him. And in the South, I know it's New Orleans, not Atlanta, but still, we'll give it to him. Next game, Penn State. Drew Aller, another guy that couldn't play catch to his receivers. The line of scrimmage was there. Penn State was damn well they were physical enough to beat Notre Dame. Probably should have beat Notre Dame. If you want to go back and look, obviously errors from Aller and Notre Dame took advantage. Leonard what's his name? I always forget his first name.
Leonard.
Riley Leonard. I always want to call him Myers. Riley Leonard did a hell of a job of managing that game and not letting the moment get too big for him. Made the plays when he needed to make them. I mean, he hit a big throw, even though the guy was wide open in that fourth quarter. I mean, he made plays. But the plays that Riley Leonard makes against Ohio State, I just don't see a world where Ohio State's nearly as forgiving as Penn State, as Indiana. I mean,
Riley Leonard has felt like the fourth best guy in their offense.
Yeah.
Time.
No,
yeah.
100%.
And the thing I've been so nervous about for Riley Leonard watching these games is I saw it in the Indiana game most of all is when it's internal pressure and shit's getting in his thing, he gets in retreat mode real fast and there's no getting any balls completed off his back foot. It's just not the talent he has. So, yeah, I honestly, well-founded argument. Can I counter with
soon. I want to keep going.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So the interesting part is Notre Dame, they beat Penn State. So what is Penn State? Is Penn State the third best team in the Big Ten?
At least.
Okay. So, but you could technically argue Indiana.
That's what I'm saying. It would have been a great game to see. Yeah.
So those are three. Those are 3 and 4. Right? Those are 3 and 4.
Indiana was great, overachieved, well coached, and so they beat every team they were supposed to. Obviously, maybe the best win on the schedule ends up being Michigan at home before Michigan kind of found themselves out on defense, and we get to see them who they were against Ohio State and Alabama with their last 2 games of the year. But I think we totally agree that Notre Dame would Penn State would fuck up Indiana. Abdul Carter and all the pass rushing and yeah.
But there is an argument.
There's an argument, yeah. So at least third.
So that's the part that I lose. So I know Notre Dame beat Penn State and they're going to the national championship, but I'm just looking at the road maps. I know Ohio State, Texas was a lot closer than 28-14, but it also wasn't as close. Yeah, they are right there on the 1 yard line to tie it up. If Ohio State gets the ball, we know exactly. I mean, Texas bettors are only happy, and the ones that bet the spread, because it's going to end in a field goal. Obviously, it's college football. Anything can happen. But that's what it was.
Let me ask you this question.
What's up?
Do you think Texas scores there, Will Howard goes and wins the game?
Now, that's a completely different argument.
Because that's the counter I want to throw at the line of quarterbacks you're throwing out.
I do.
Okay, so 2 things here. One, I totally agree. You can't exist in man all day against for a few factors against Ohio State.
Yeah.
One, skill position wise, fucking absolutely no way. Just matchup for matchup. You got too many guys over there on Ohio State. Ohio State this year is that Georgia team, that Alabama team you remember seeing up on the stage where you're just like, holy fuck, look at these guys.
Yep.
I'm 30. That guy's 18. He beat the absolute fucking shit out of me. So for those reasons, absolutely, they're not going to get to live in man the same way they did against Penn State receivers, who obviously Penn State, not a big transfer portal place, not the greatest skill position players.
Remember, Jack, Penn State has good position players. They just don't have a quarterback that can get them the football.
Well, I'm going to make a case here. I think Drew Aller is going to get drafted higher than Will Howard.
I think he's coming back.
He is going to come back. But my point is, when Drew Aller leaves, he's going to go higher than Will Howard to go in the draft. And then part 2 is you can't live in man all day anyway because it's fucking easy as an offensive coordinator to go scheme up against it. And Chip Kelly, whose bread and butter beyond just power run game is the ability to go get you out of whatever coverage he doesn't like seeing. If you're in man, they're just going to run crossing routes. They're going to set you up with bunch formations and run rubs. There's just no world they're going to be able to exist in man all day. So they won't. They're going to exist in zone. The thing that's exciting for them that maybe you go, okay, they're going to be able to get off the field on some of these third downs is that they can play man. And if you can exist in man for 20% of this game and dial up pressure, Will Howard's not a guy who's escaping out of the back of this thing. So if you can dial up pressure and get home, which, I mean, guy for guy, Notre Dame's D-line isn't exceptional, but this playoff run they have been. They've dominated Georgia's offensive line. They got home a ton, dominated Penn State's offensive line, particularly in the second half. And so for those reasons, yes. Like I'm not so much worried about Notre Dame's ability to hold up on the defensive back end. Remember, it's hard to make a case as to how good Notre Dame's defense is, as Ohio State's defense is ranked just one above them in every important defensive metric. But just to bring it up, it's going to be the best defense Ohio State's played all year. Notre Dame is second to only Ohio State in total points allowed, and second to only Ohio State in total passing yards allowed per game, which are going to be the important stats of this game.
Hey,
now,
I'll keep going.
Oh, no. Go ahead and make it, because I'm going to pivot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, but this the defensive stats is something, because I was told Indiana was, defensively, where they rank up. I think they were like 4th or 5th. Like they were a real, but they didn't play anybody.
Right.
Notre Dame, I get it, the regular season, no one played anyone in the regular season. But I'm like, we're going down, we're using the same stats.
No. Hey,
Oregon's,
they played both Army and Navy. So it's a great point.
And I'm even saying in the playoff run, I'm pretty sure they're using the same, like they're pulling the stats. And
so you keep saying that, like they haven't played any quarterbacks yet. And as you go through it, I'm with you. Rourke at Indiana, I was never overly impressed by.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously playing a backup with Stockton against Georgia. Now, you're playing Georgia still. Drew Aller is better than you're giving credit for. And Drew Aller, I would make the case, if we're just blind taste test here, I might like Drew Aller more than I like Will Howard. And Drew Aller now coming back for another year, I'm pretty confident he's going to go higher on the draft board than Will Howard will eventually. And they just went up against it. Now, the skill position upgrade that you're going from Penn State to Ohio State 100%. But longer way, just say, have you noticed Will Howard shooting up any draft boards recently? I love his personality, but I think he's like kind of your classic college football quarterback, and these are the big moments he's going to have in his life. But he's just a guy. He's by no means a world beater. He transferred out of Kansas State last year, and they were happy to see him leave. That was kind of a mutual departure because they had a freshman they were excited about. Now, and by the way, you're talking about an Ohio State team and a quarterback that have been in 3, and just for sake of argument, we're going to call it 4 close games this year. And it actually benefits you to tack on the 4th. But I just want to put this in context so I can make a case as to why if we get a 4th quarter game here, it's going to get really interesting. Lost to Oregon.
Yep.
They had a chance to go down and win that thing. They choked the clock management on the last drive. They beat Penn State. That was they end up winning 20-14, I believe, was that final score.
But thankfully to their defense.
But in that game, Will Howard throws a pick 6, 182 yards, that's it, and just 6 second half points, which was enough to win, all right. But the story of that day was the defense stops Penn State on a 4th and goal from the 1. Not the heroics of Will Howard. Then they go play Michigan. They get beat 13-10. Threw 2 picks in that game, 0 second half points. And then they just beat Texas. And that's why I asked the question to you. Do you think he scores with the ball on that last drive? Because to date, there's no evidence that they do. My case is I don't know. The story is Jack Sawyer, not Will Howard in that 4th quarter. And so if Notre Dame can keep this close, I mean, if you look at their run, what's been most impressive about it is just how well they've executed on everything. The margins have been tight in every game they've played, even against Indiana, where it was not tight. Like the margins, they had to go and execute a very specific thing. And to date, they've just dialed it up and been perfect. Ohio State's going to absolutely be the best team they've played all year. I think they're the best team in college football. The question is, can Notre Dame cover 8? And I think they can hang around. Remember, we're talking about, second points allowed. Now, I know contextually, we're talking about Army, Navy, and we're talking about all this stuff. Yeah. Obviously, Texas played a much harder schedule than Notre Dame did. But Texas held this team to 21 points before the picks, the fumble recovery for the touchdown, which is fucking bizarro world. Mm-hmm. And then the other 7 comes on the 75-yard screen that goes to the house, which is just one horribly called defense on them. But for the most part, hung in there the whole game. If Notre Dame looks something similar on defense, I don't know. Can we find enough stuff on offense to just get some scoring going? Because that's the one question I have here. Because I did not like a lot of what we did on offense as a guy rooting for Notre Dame against Penn State.
So that's my whole argument is going to start turning to this. If I was betting Riley Leonard versus Will Howard. I don't know, man. I don't even know where I'd go there. Maybe Will Howard, but my point is it's pretty even. I'm betting on Ohio State's like swagger, like their run, like they just ran through Tennessee, Oregon, Texas is the big test. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say
it's been a pretty cool slaying the dragon run here. Big fun of big brands they've just been running through.
Yeah, so when this is smelling like Bama versus Notre Dame 13 years ago, Jack. This is smelling like we got the big, overwhelming, tough guy. It was Bama then. It's Ohio State now. It's the same. It's the same freak show. Bama's roster in 2012. I'm looking at those guys. I mean, I guess I'm 12 years old, so anyone looks huge. But that's a scary roster. Ohio State's roster this year is just as scary as one of those. That's what I genuinely believe.
There's no question. Now, Notre Dame just did win the guy off 2 games in a row in games where they were way down on the 5-star list, way down on like the recruiting metric rankings, guy for guy, roster for roster. On paper, they weren't nearly as talented as Georgia or Penn State, and frankly, won the line of scrimmage in both games, executed flawlessly, and you know, Riley Leonard does throw the pick, and absolutely Penn State had their chance to go win that game, but they weren't the ones to flinch in that game. Penn State was.
True. But I will say my one thing about Georgia is, you know, I mean, we watched Oregon to get the first round bye come out flat. We watched, I mean, Boise State and Arizona State. Obviously, we witnessed those. Arizona State, you could argue, comes out flat, and if it isn't for the heroics of Scatabo, it's not even a game. But I don't even want to focus too much time on those guys. Oregon and Georgia, both teams, 10 points. And I guess Oregon got the 21 points, but we know what that game was. The first round bye, those guys came out flat. I don't know. So I weigh that into the Georgia game.
It's going to be interesting. I don't see the blowout anymore.
I can't see anything but a blowout. I just don't. Riley Leonard hasn't done anything on offense, and I'm like, oh yeah, that'll fly against Ohio State. That'll fly.
I suppose.
Because he's getting out of these games, I mean, with like 100 yards passing, and
it's not been him.
It's not
been him. It's been boring. It's been unbelievable defense. They win the field position battle. They hit the ball to a tight end. They hit the 3, all of a sudden they're off and rolling. And then, obviously, kick return for a touchdown to open up halftime against Georgia. They only had 1 offensive touchdown against Georgia, Lantz, and it comes on the strip sack at the end of the first half. So, absolutely. Like, all of that being true. The thing I'm certain of in this game is it is under 45.5. It is the 1 versus 2 defense in scoring in the country playing in this fucking game without any exceptional quarterback play going on.
True.
So the question, that's where I think when you see the blowout, your mind can get fucked up here. Now you could easily still get but if we're getting underball into the 45.5, I need fucking Notre Dame to go get me 17. You get me 17, you cover this number.
Yeah. If Notre Dame scores 17 points, 100%. But I'm just man for man when it goes to the Notre Dame's offense and how they've stayed alive. I'm like, that shit ain't gonna fly with Ohio State. You're gonna see a lot of 3rd and longs. They're gonna shut down your run game. There's nothing you can do about it. They're Ohio State. It's tough.
We got a tackle out for Notre Dame as well, just to add that onto the pile. Starting left tackle.
Yeah, that's never good. That's never good. But I mean, Notre Dame's tough. They'll have a next guy up.
Well, look, here's where I sit today. Here are my picks going into the game, which also kind of explains how I see this game kind of playing itself out.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Notre Dame +8.
Mm-hmm.
I reserve the right to flip-flop.
Yep.
I absolutely agree. We could absolutely go see a 27, 28-10 type game here and an easy cover, a game that stays interesting through the 3rd quarter, and we get 2 late Ohio State touchdowns, and then bada bing, bada boom, there you go.
Yeah.
On some kind of explosive. But I'm positive and will not flinch on my under 45.5 unless I wake up on game day and 90% of the public is on the under, and I'm like, well, shit, Vegas isn't going to get beat that bad, and I'll just abort and go the other way. But that's the only thing that could get me to come off this thing. The only way for all this to pile off, the Notre Dame's only chance, if they're sitting there watching film, if you're going through their chances, who's got to be a game player, who's got to be a guy to make some plays in this game, it's Jordan Faison. He's the only guy that gives you a chance. If you get Faison going, then the run game, then you get a little Jeremiah Love, then Great House starts to emerge. But Faison has to get planned plays where he's getting the ball. Now we're going to try to call 60% pass play, and we'll find him in the script. I need 5 plays on the script, on the call sheet, and I need 2 plays our opening 10 that directly spit the ball out to Jordan Faison. If it's on an end around, if it's spitting it out on a quick screen, whatever it is, that guy's got to touch the ball because he can make people miss. He's electric, and all of a sudden you can get going. You can play with tempo. You could do something there. I'm also going Riley Leonard over on attempts. Pass rush is going to be too fucking bad. You're going to have to find ways to basically open up Jeremiah Love. You got to keep Jack Sawyer honest. It's going to be a lot of the zone read stuff. It'll be some design stuff. Remember the play they hit the first down with to set up the game-winning kick against Penn State? Little sprint out left where all of a sudden kind of receiver setting up like he's blocking and just turns over his inside hip and they just hit him on the stick. The shit like that. A lot of that type of RPO where it's Riley Leonard's run pass option. Not we're ride the mesh with Jeremiah Love and looking for a glance. It's him on the out. So I love if that number's at 15, it's going to be hard because he ain't taking knees in this game. Riley Leonard's going to have to be driving the ball late, So if it's over 15, I'll lay off it. If it's anything under 15, I'm going to take it. And then the other one I like is Will Howard to throw a pick in this game. We saw him throw the pick against Texas, just basically getting a little bit fed up and trying to force a ball against good coverage. Notre Dame to date, we'll see if it holds up, has been the stickiest, gloviest friggin' secondary, and they're on the roll. Yeah. Ryan Clark's son is absolutely balling out there on the island and kicking ass. So I see a world where we get a couple consecutive bad third downs from Ohio State where just nothing's open. We got to dirt it. Maybe you got to take a sack. Will Howard just gets a little impatient. Does the classic quarterback mistake where if he's not open, I'll just throw it harder, which is kind of his style as a fastball thrower. So love him to throw a pick in this game. So all of that is obviously writing a Notre Dame narrative. I basically bet on every bet that keeps Notre Dame in this game. Mm-hmm. If I bail on the Notre Dame, I might walk back on some of the stuff. But I actually think all of that, regardless, looks pretty good because I think Faison, Riley Leonard rushing has to be in the game plan. And I do think Will Howard's going to be hopped up in this game. And I think there's evidence that he's absolutely willing to force it into some man coverage.
No, you're, and I like those takes. Honestly, that's good. But so this is a genuine question because I actually am curious what you think. How close do you think Texas's front, their D line is to Notre Dame's?
I think Texas is more talented. I really do.
Talented, bigger, stronger.
I think offensive. I don't think their O-line's as physical at the point of attack. Something went awry with their offense. The back end of the season, with the exception of putting 38 up against Clemson, the offense was not there. Quinn Ewers is a big part of the problem, but with that many weapons, it's just shocking, especially with the track record Sark has. Just wasn't there. It just wasn't quite there. But I absolutely think Texas is. I just think, much like Ohio State is and why championships are awesome, is it's not always the 2 best teams. It's the 2 hottest teams that got to the dance. Yeah. Which is, for me, it's better for an expanded playoff. It just, if we don't have the expanded playoff, by the way, neither of these teams make the playoff.
Yeah, true.
So it's like Notre Dame would have been the 5th team and left at the doorstep. I argue Penn State would have gone in ahead of them. But that's why it's good to have the expanded playoff. But my point being is, although Notre Dame's not as talented as Texas, they're certainly hotter and they're just overachieving. I don't see this as the Notre Dame Bama game of 10 years ago. I think the transfer portal has leveled this out a little bit. It is still clearly Ohio State's the better football team. Mm-hmm. Absolutely the better football team. I think Notre Dame's equally as hot. And if they can put together the game plan, all of it's ripe to be hanging in there in the fourth quarter. And if you're in a fourth quarter game, Not saying he can't do it, because he blew it against Oregon on the final drive, but short of that, he hasn't been asked to do this this season. I guess Michigan had chances there and didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, but not saying he can't do it, but we have not seen him do it. Go lead the field down for a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. So if Notre Dame can get themselves to the fourth quarter, I say advantage them.
Hey, I mean, you're right. The Notre Dame has not flinched in these late games, and it feels like they've been in some, because the Georgia game, I mean, it was, I don't know. It's tough. But Texas had success triple covering Jeremiah Smith. They had success. You could look at some of those, and there's like a triangle around them.
Yeah, it's the Bill Belichick, Nick Saban defense. It's kind of what they ran against Tyreek Hill and all that other stuff. You start with the too high shell, and then you can do whatever you want out of that. You can roll down, roll aside, but whenever they want to, they just roll it over on top of, and they just drop out of it to kind of to deep three right there. But then you're collisioning at the line of scrimmage. You get the safety over the top. It's a good answer. It's a good answer.
No, it's a good answer, but with the line of scrimmage, I mean, Texas, of course, they could rush 4 all day long and have success. They were bringing 5 and a couple, but their 4 down linemen, they were good enough.
Yeah. I know. And scheme wise, I'll go.
But I'm like, I know, and I'm curious. I'm asking. I'm like, do you think Notre Dame's defense at all can physically match what Texas brought last game?
I think right now they're better in the back end. Even though
back end, yeah, I'll agree.
World beaters. Same thing with the tackling. Texas tackled great. I think Notre Dame's tackles unbelievably well in space. Obviously, that's how they limit the yards. Here, like, as simple as I can make it, for me right now in my head, and again, reserve the right to flip flop. We've got 2 episodes between now and this game kicking off.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I think Notre Dame has obviously just proven in the Notre Dame-Penn State game, is made in the same image of Penn State, not as talented. You don't have the Abdul Carters of the world. You don't have the Tyler Warrens of the world. But I think they're basically that team, but a little bit better, which is just what we saw. We saw got beat on the final field goal. That's the way it goes in a game that was pretty evenly square the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State-Penn State game. Now, it's played at Penn State. But that game went to a 4th and goal, just like Texas at the 1. Ohio State bows up and goes. We just watched that fucking Jeremiah Love run in that Penn State game where they got 9 chances at him on the goal line. Not to say this is what it's going to come down to, but I think Notre Dame can be great on what are the winning plays, and that's 3rd down, 4th quarter, 2-minute, those situations, and red zone. Those situations, if they can be great, then they give themselves a real chance. And once again, the whole game, if you can get to a point where you got your defense on the field, and if Will Howard drives the field and kicks a field goal and beats you, that's the way it goes. You had no chance in this game.
Yeah.
If that's the way it goes,
Agreed.
That's the point you got to get to. Is basically the same thing that did Drew Aller. Is there you go. If you can drive the length of the field and come beat us right now, you deserve to. And if not, we're going to overtime. And we can keep just not flinching, keep being great, red zone, short yardage, 4th down. And there you go.
So basically, we're just going to need an all-time performance from Notre Dame's defense. Because this first half, I mean, if Ohio State, say they score on the first, in the first 2 of their 5 drives of the game, does Notre Dame get any points? Like, I just don't see a world where they have any success against this Notre Dame or this Ohio State defense. Because this Ohio State defense during this entire run is just like, whoa. Like Caleb Downs, Sawyer, the 2 guys in the middle. 91, I don't know his name, but keep going.
I'm going to say this, and I have no way to justify it. I'm just taking a hot take. I think this is how it's going to play out. I think they're going to have more success running the ball than Texas or Oregon did. Why? I don't have any explanation.
No, I know what you're saying.
is a fucking hard-nosed guy. They have 3 guys they're willing to give the back to. Riley Leonard, for whatever reason, it looks awkward. The guy falls forward. He's 6'5", and he just falls forward. If they can just continue to piece away at it and pick up big-time first downs on 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, and you can get yourself on first down or 2nd and 9 to 3rd and manageable, then all the makings. I refuse to write Notre Dame out of this game just yet. Like I've been too impressed with them this entire playoff run.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand where you're coming from 100%, but I just after seeing the games and how miss obviously the college football playoff, and we'll have many shows for when the season's over to just go in and talk about the layout of the expanded playoff, which I love, but it just needs to be fixed. The 2 sides of the bracket are just so different. It's just like one feels like the double elimination consolation side, and one feels like the big dogs. And I'll get one side had Boise State, SMU, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, and who's the last? Who'd I miss? Indiana. The other side, leave the 6 over there. The other side had Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Tennessee. Tennessee's SEC. Now looking back, I don't know how the hell they made it, but Tennessee was there. Arizona State. Did I already say them?
Ooh.
Arizona State's not real. Arizona State. There's the 2 that weren't real on the winner's side was Arizona State and
Tennessee.
Exactly. So one side, and the champion coming out of the one side, I'm just not nearly impressed enough compared to the Ohio State. Like, you look at their path, you look at the season. When we go back to look at their flaws, we look in the middle and the regular season. But when we look at this run they're on, it's unbelievable.
Let's do this really quick. Let's not spend more than 4 minutes on this. Let's just go knee-jerk reaction. But let's start in and let's work ourselves out. So we just had Texas, Penn State. I think we both agree Texas beats Penn State.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
So advantage that side of the bracket again. Come out one step off that. You've got Oregon, Arizona State, and help me.
Boise State, Georgia.
And Boise State.
Oh, yeah. You might already say Georgia.
No, now you got me fucked up. I'm on the other side. I don't know. Obviously, we have to redo seeding. It's dumb to have Boise State with a bye.
But like Notre Dame, I don't think Notre Dame beats Oregon. I've been thinking about it, and we've been talking about. You said.
Here's the thing: Ohio State doesn't beat Oregon. Ohio State got their ass kicked by Oregon.
They lost by 1 at Autzen.
But they play them on the game. They lay the egg, and now we act like, oh my God, Ohio State's so much better than Oregon. If we play it again, I bet on Oregon. You would too.
I think Oregon's significantly better than Notre Dame. That's my argument. I think Oregon.
I do too. But it's any given Saturday. If you go back to that Rose Bowl day, I think Notre Dame beats them that day.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't even think that. I don't believe that personally.
Okay, but now you're going to go and play this,
you're right. It's too. You can't do it. You can't do it.
13-10.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But it's just too. The problem is Ohio State has just looked like 2 different teams this season. You had the whole regular season up to Michigan, and then they just flipped this switch. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just how about this fun fact? Because it's just, we can just turn back and laugh at it. We already agreed both these teams wouldn't have made the playoff in the original format. Without the expanded playoff, neither would be still involved. We are a month removed from Ohio State getting their ass kicked by Michigan. 13-10 beatdown, 0 second half points from Ohio State in that game. And we're also shitty 6-6 USC was sitting there tied with Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. They scored 42 on them. Notre Dame had 2 pick sixes to end that game, but USC's driving in the red zone. They were 99-yard returns. These are balls we were throwing into the end zone. Like 6-6 USC almost went and beat this Notre Dame team.
They almost beat Penn State.
It's college football. I had an old coach tell me this a long time ago, and this is inappropriate, so I apologize in advance. Know that I'm quoting somebody else. But it's being a college football coach is a fucking nightmare. All day long, you're trying to get these kids to care about football. All they care about is pussy. It's just the way it goes. 18-year-old college.
And you're 100% right. You're 100% right. And it's really, that's the toughest part, though, is you try to debate and you try to go in, but it's like Ohio State looked like shit a month ago. A month ago, everyone was like, who are these guys? We want Bama instead of them, or whatever arguments. Everyone's all fired up. Now it's like, they just marched through and beat the shit out of teams. I know the Texas game was close, but it never felt like Ohio State was going to lose that game. It always just felt like Texas might actually, keep it a game. And to quote you, and when you were saying, do you think Will Howard leads him down the field? Jack, if they stop him on the 1 and it's first down going the other way, and you have the 2-minute warning and 2 timeouts and you're Texas, I don't even know if Will Howard gets a first down. We don't know that this year. Mm-hmm. But I just watched the guy hang up for however many touchdowns on Oregon. It's so flip-flop. But I think Ohio State rolls Notre Dame. I don't think Riley Leonard. It's going to be a deer in the headlights, it feels, when they show up to this game, because Ohio State's going to come. Like, they smell it. They smell blood in the water. They just got by the toughest part that everyone's been talking all season, the Oregon, Texas, all these big dogs. And the other half of the SEC, they didn't even make it. Ohio State smells blood in the water, and I just have a feeling in my bones that I'm going to watch a Manti Te'o-esque performance in the national championship from Notre Dame, and they get absolutely clobbered.
Let's close this conversation.
Yeah.
And just tell me we agree on some common ground here. Number 1, it's underball. This game's going
Yeah,
under.
I agree.
Yeah. Number 2, Ohio State's gonna win this game.
I agree.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
We agree on those things. We'll circle back next episode where we see where we stand. I think it's Notre Dame, but I also just want to see a fucking game. So maybe I've talked myself into this. I don't know.
Dude,
you got any,
all I know is I love sports. It's picks tonight?
Tonight?
Yeah. Let's move on. Sorry, folks. We're going at each other's necks because we're passionate about this national championship. But we're moving on. Tuesday night picks. I'm actually coming in with a parlay, folks. So believe in the parlay. I loaded it up on Wana. I think I'm in that 40-point range. Going to give me a decent check. I'm not going to win the whole thing, but decent check. Bucks minus 2.5 at home against the Kings. I know the Kings are hot. They're on a 7-game win streak, but the Bucks have been losing to the top of the East, and Giannis just had a wake-up speech saying we need to start beating good teams. I like the Bucks here. In that game, just a random, I'm sick in the head, but I've won it 4 times in a row. DeMar DeRozan over 3.5 assists. For some reason, when I bet it, it hits. I'm probably going to jinx myself, but I'm that confident because of how many times it's hit. I'm taking it again. Bulls minus 1.5 versus Pelicans. Bulls are starting to get, they're sneaky. They're starting to get right. I know the Pelicans, they got people coming back from injuries, but the chemistry is so far gone that because they never play together because half the teams hurt the entire season. So I just like Bulls minus 1.5. But I like Zion Williamson over 22.5 points. Does that contradict me? A little bit, it feels, but at the end of the day, you got to score points if you play in the NBA. And Zion Williamson isn't going to have much contest at the rim with an undersized center with Vucevic. Moving on. Denver minus 3.5 at Mavs. I still don't know the injuries and all that. I don't know if Kyrie's back. I know Luka's not back, but I know damn well I like Denver here. And I like Jokic over 28.5, the best player in the world. And that's my parlay.
You nailed it with Denver and Jokic. I'll add nothing. Zion over 22.5. Guy doesn't shoot the 3. How engaged is he tonight? God, I just wish he'd do the dunk contest. I feel like he owes it to us now with the kind of slow start to the career. Bulls minus 1.5 versus Pelicans. I feel like Pelicans, like the Jazz, do this thing where they're either getting their ass blown out or they're playing in a really competitive game against a good team. When they play other bad teams, it's not like they're like all of a sudden like now like apples to apples. Like they'll still just go get their ass blown out. So I love any bet against the Pelicans, particularly when they're coming off that late almost comeback win against the Celtics. It felt like, they punched themselves out a little bit in that, and this could be the letdown game a little bit. Bucks minus 2.5 versus the Kings. If the game's in Milwaukee, I love it. The way you have it written, I'm guessing the game's in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then DeRozan over 3.5 assists. Obviously, great fucking inside defense from Milwaukee. DeRozan, a bit of a mid-range killer. Feels like a drive and kick game for the guy. I'll take the assists. I dig it. You take the NBA. I like this as we pivot to basketball season because I'm a college hoops man. I went all college hoops here. Okay, I go a little bit out of order here in terms of the time these actually tip. But first, I just have to get it out there. The lock of locks, I hope it hasn't tipped already. I'm not positive it hasn't. But Kentucky minus 6.5 versus Texas A&M. Lock City, I know it's a big number against a ranked Texas A&M team, but trust it and take it. I'm loving, Lance, this post-Calipari Kentucky team. I'm not sure there's an NBA guy on the roster, frankly. I'm not that good at the evals, but that's basically the buzz. I've not seen a single Kentucky guy in an NBA draft board. They're just a bunch of kind of college all-stars. A lot of guys that wear baggy T-shirts and just kind of ball. Future Y heroes.
I like it.
They're scoring 89.2 points a game this year, giving up just less than 75. So the margins on average are over 14 per game. This is a team that's beaten Duke, Gonzaga, and they're coming off a road win against a 14th ranked Mississippi State. So absolutely legit fucking team here. And if you needed any more incentive, 93% of the public is betting on Texas A&M tonight, which is all but a foregone certainty, especially if you like the team on the other side. Just go ahead and take them. Kentucky minus 6.5. Next team, also not doing this in order of how they tip off, doing it in order of how much I like the bet. USC minus 2.5 versus Iowa. Loving this USC team more and more. I watch them. They're starting to settle in under Coach Musselman in his first year. They are 100% transfers, Lance, and they're all mid-major all-stars. Every single one of these guys averaged over 14 points last year at a big-time mid-major school, and they're starting to kind of look like a real team. They're a little bit positionless. Like, they're just freaking pretty. They pass the eye test completely. Coming off a massive 10-point road win versus 13th-ranked Illinois. Now they're back at home tonight against an Iowa team that I think hasn't really played much this year. Give them the USC minus 2.5. Get them back to 500 in the Big Ten. Excited for them on that. Then we'll go Ole Miss plus 12.5 at Alabama. Big-time SEC basketball game here. The line's a little spooky. The line makes me want to trust Vegas and take Alabama. But I just watched this Ole Miss team go into Arkansas and absolutely dominate them. They end up winning by, I think, 7, but the score doesn't quite reflect how much their defense absolutely handled them in that game. This is a team that also beat Louisville by 23 on the road, and not for nothing, they went to Purdue and lost on the final possession by 2. So they're getting 12.5 at Alabama. It feels like an achievable number. It's a similar environment. I could see them winning it outright, and I really like them to just make it a game and feel like the 12.5 is not as sweaty at all. But the line, that line to me should have been 6.5. Being at 12.5 spooks me a little bit. Random game. No one's going to watch it. Rice minus 4.5 versus UTSA. Only reason I have it, Lance, Rob Lanier was the SMU coach for the past 2 seasons, so I'm familiar with him. A couple SMU guys followed him from SMU to Rice. So I know this team and I know what they're about. Watch too many Rob Lanier basketball games. They will never, ever overachieve and beat someone that's better than them. It's not in their DNA. They will, on games like this where they're 4 or 5 point favorites against kind of the middle of the conference, go and absolutely handle these guys by 25. Love Rice tonight, minus 4.5, to smoke the Roadrunners and UTSA. And then the last game, I saw it. I'm playing a little bit of a hunch. It's a fun game. Nice little Big Ten matchup. Ohio State plus 6.5 at Wisconsin. I've watched just a little bit of Ohio State this year, but I did watch a little like E60 thing on their coach and kind of their practice environment. And now I'm starting to kind of figure out who they are. They are a nightmare to play against. They're super physical, super active. They'll roll full court press at you. They bang on the boards. They kind of put the onus on the refs to make a call early whistles, or just deal with it, and this will be the game. This is a team that beat that Kentucky team I love by 20. And they kind of get up for these kind of games. I think they're hyper competitive. So I think there's some spots. They don't shoot well, and they play like shit. They got beat by Oregon, a 14th ranked team, Oregon, last week. And it was a game they got beat by 1. I think they should have hung in there. Now they're catching 6.5 at number 24, Wisconsin. If Wisconsin's not shooting the lights out, they're not that great of a team. And I think Ohio State's going to go kind of bully ball these guys. I actually like them to win it outright, and they're getting 6.5. So I'm going Ohio State there. But the game you got to have is Kentucky. Have to have it. I got 100 on it now. I'd probably get more.
So Kentucky is the lock. What about, wait, so explain to me, did Rob Lanier take the Rice job over SMU, or was he out?
Dude, I I think technically fired. It might have been a mutual departure, but basically SMU football did the deal that we were going to ACC. Basketball is coming with it. It's a basketball team that has not made the tournament, I don't think, since 2017. So yeah, that, like, I got the best years. I went to school at SMU Lantz from 13 to 17. I got the best years of SMU basketball ever. I got the Larry Brown years. We were ranked all 4 years, made the tournament twice, got a postseason ban 1 year, and we're the only ranked team to not be invited to the tournament in 15 years prior.
I remember that stat.
In 2013. I'll say that stat no less than 200 more times in my life. I will tell people about that. It's still bothers.
Yeah, that would bother the shit out of me too.
Yeah, so Rob Lanier, great guy. It was a bummer to see him go. It was just like, okay, we can't take this into the ACC. Like, we got to invest in this. All of a sudden, put $5 million towards the NIL. We have a team of 100% transfers, and now Andy Enfeld's our coach, and I'm loving it. Beat the shit out of Georgia Tech the other night. Feeling great.
Nice. I missed a couple chats. This was probably earlier, but I'll read them now because I'm still here. David Smerling was laughing at Jack Trevion Neuheisel. KG says, here's KG. He's on your side. I'm calling Notre Dame upset. They have nothing to lose. If Notre Dame stays close, watch out. They are very, very good at causing turnovers. They are the number 1 team in the nation in caused turnovers, I believe. And I think you're right, KG. I'm pretty sure they are the number 1 team in turnovers. And then
that occasionally makes me nervous, Lance.
And then wait, hold on.
Turnover stat occasionally makes me nervous because it's just, how do you replicate that?
Yeah, how do you gauge it? Yeah. And David Smerling, Notre Dame isn't better at any position on the football field. Interesting take. KG Little Joe's Denver Nuggets -3.5 lock. All caps. Let me repeat it. Lock. That's what he said, not me. And then says maybe he's saying New Orleans Pelicans, but he's saying in all caps, no Pelicans. Williamson 29.5 over rebounds and points lock.
That's interesting because he's a Bulls guy.
Yeah, that kind of frightens me. KG, if you're still here, as we wrap up the show, please let us know if you think Bulls -1.5 is going to hit.
And Raider, our man Smerling.
Oh, yeah.
Great point. I will say, though, I got burned chasing that same logic last night, looking at the Vikings versus the Rams. I really thought position group for position group, Vikings, even receivers, I was willing to say, give me that core. And boy, do I look like a dickhead. So I don't know, man. I reserve the right to change my mind. Come on the show on Thursday, Raider.
Yeah. You reserved the ability to change your mind up until Monday's show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, there's still time. I mean, we went to war today, but we'll probably have to go to war to the Thursday. But Monday, I see us joining.
You can't tiptoe into an opinion on this show. You know, you gotta have some fucking conviction around here. But I have to preface with the fact of, like, I don't really have conviction. I'm gonna say it with some nuts, but I just want a good game. Goddamn, is that too much to ask for?
Oh no, I mean, obviously, of course, we want a good game. I don't want it to be the Alabama Notre Dame, but something smells funny. All right. Let's wrap it up.
SMU goes 3-3 versus the other side of the bracket.
Wait.
You've been saying that side of the bracket sucks, and I'm just like, fuck that. That was my side of the bracket.
I don't mean to dog on SMU because it's like SMU. That game was just fucked. Like that first round, the home teams just beat the shit out of everyone.
It was the Oregon game. It was just like we just decided to fucking just suck. Just suck.
So it's like that game is another game. It's hard to gauge for Penn State. It's like, well, the quarterback came out and just gave you fucking 2 free touchdowns basically instantly.
It has been a minute, by the way, since SMU has won a postseason game. I gotta rack my brain on that. I think it might go back to like 2019, 2018.
Woo! Well, hey, SMU will be back, right? Don't they keep
We're sitting tight on a Georgia receiver transfer right now. If we get that guy, I'm willing to guarantee we're going to be back in Charlotte next season playing for the ACC championship.
Hey, Georgia's receivers though. I mean, that wasn't great this year. That wasn't great.
No, they got a little case of the drops, but what the hell?
That was the whole season for Georgia was weird. It's just
Sometimes, yeah, Carson Beck. I thought that whole thing was weird. I didn't care for their offense this year. And I will say one of the problems that Georgia uniquely runs into, and it's what a hilarious. I'm sure it's a horrible problem to have, but they've got more people leaving every year in getting into the transfer portal because they're all 5-star guys making big time NIL money. And if they're not going to be in Heisman conversations by the time they're done playing college football, maybe they want to look for greener pastures. So I do think sometimes you get stuck in games against Kentucky where maybe you see as an opportunity to fit into your game plan. Hey, let's get so-and-so and this guy touches this game just to kind of give everyone a bite of the apple. Now, is Kirby Smart that dumb that he really falls for that trap? Probably not. He makes $100 million. He's probably got that shit covered. But it did feel like I can go through because this kid in particular, Anthony Evans, you go back, he has one game. He had 6 plays drawn up specifically for him. We had an end around. We had a double reverse. We had like all this shit specific. We had quick screen shit going out to him. All this shit. Whereas every other game, he was a punt returner and had 3 other catches outside of that Mississippi State game. So I do think like some of that is a factor of like, hey, this guy's a little blue. Let's go get him involved. You know?
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Continuity and the structure of your offense just kind of wanes and goes to shit. Trying to give you an out here, Bobo. I'm trying to give you an out.
No, I mean that's a great take. I didn't even think about that side. I mean, if you're the you're Georgia, Bama. I mean, you know, one year they can go to Louisville and make a lot of money. If you're a one guy, yeah. So it's tough. So we'll see. We'll talk. We'll be back. You want to wrap us up?
As always, our show is brought to you by Wanna Parlay, home of the $2 parlay and the world's richest parlay, where every day people are turning $2 into $2,000. We had tons of special shout outs and newly rich men and women to celebrate today. Pick 4, we had eHand8431, one of the great sexy names on the Wanna platform. 3rd all-time win and biggest win to date for the kid. Congrats on the free $200. Parlay Royale. Who else? Fucking dialed picks. Smerling, you got to go catch this guy, man. I like you both dearly. I like Kate a lot, but fuck, we need rivals. We can't just have one. We can't have fucking Max Verstappen winning every race, and the rest of us are excited about 3rd place. Quick $1,000 for DP, by the way. Guys, get in the Parlay Royale. If you get up on one and make a little money, I know it's $50 to get involved there, but fuck, it's $1,000 for a pick 4. Get busy. Main event, Cicero Rocky 3x9 dialed up a 6-leg 47.91 to set up the early standard for the week. Respectable, beautiful, dare I say attractive. I'm into it. It ain't going to be enough. 6 more nights to go to catch that number and win yourself 2K, people. That number is achievable. You should be taking multiple swings at it every night. Lantz gave you a dialed up parlay. I gave you 6 all-world college basketball picks. You got people like Dialed Picks and One Mad Raider. You can go see what they're betting on tonight. Even Chicago KG. I say even. I don't know why I do it. The guy's got a fucking history of winning. He's up 4K. But yeah. And then another reminder. Good job from the chat today. We got spirited. So I apologize if we didn't get to you sooner, but we were into it, which is what you want from.
He's cutting in and out, folks. I don't know what's going on there, but Alex Stoles, the sports spot, showing up in the chat. We were just thinking, guys like you. We appreciate you coming in. Vols Natty 2026. Keep dreaming. You're an absolute fraud for believing that. No, I'm just messing with you. But another reminder to everybody and anybody in our audience. I fucked that up. Anyone in our audience. We love having people on the show and are excited to continue to grow our community. And we just want to talk all things sports. So anytime you want to come on, please do. Let us know in the chat and we can have a longer conversation, or just come straight through the Discord page and we can have a little fun. We can talk it. We can talk about it. We can get after it. We can do the thing. But that's going to wrap it up for us. We'll be back Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you stop by. You could be a square about like right there. You could really, you could be your own voice. You could tell us how you feel, what you believe. We will be talking NFL playoffs, primarily that show. So I appreciate you guys for stopping by. And until next time, my friends. See ya.